Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. My friends, yesterday I received a Christmas miracle. Just like in It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey is at the height of despair, his savings and loan deposit has disappeared mysteriously, he's thinking everything has gone to ruin, and then lo and behold, everything turns out all right in the end, and an angel gets his wings. That's the kind of Christmas miracle that happened to me, folks, because yesterday I was informed that Star Trek Discovery is toast. Oh, I don't simply mean that the show is canceled. I've known that the show is canceled for a while now. The show itself ended earlier this year. It's no longer dropping streaming heaps of shit all over Paramount Plus, oddly enough, making Paramount Plus the #2 streaming network, literally. Think about it. That much I've known for a while. But that wasn't a big deal to me because the damage had been done. Star Trek Discovery is the worst piece of shit ever made for television. It's worse than Lost. It's much worse than The Acolyte. I'm not kidding when I say Star Trek Discovery redefined the very concepts of stupidity, cultural vandalism, and suck. Star Trek Discovery, or STD as I call it because it is a disease that eventually affects the mind, like syphilis, was a black hole which sucked the intelligence out of any poor soul unfortunate enough to watch it. A show that utterly destroyed the Star Trek franchise with a non-stop barrage of canon destruction, defiling pretty much everything that had gone before with constant and idiotic contradictions that seemed intended to raise Roddenberry's Star Trek to the ground and piss on the ashes. Spock, having an adopted human sister who was the bestest ever, so much better than he was, whom Sarek loved more than Spock, having an insipid magic mushroom drive that would spin the ship like a figure skater before popping it out in any part of the universe that they wished for amid a cloud of spore sparkles, like pixie dust from the ass of a brain-damaged Tinker Bell. And mind you, these cretins were trying to say the Federation had this magic mushroom drive before Star Trek the original series. This is a prequel to Star Trek, folks. Instantaneous transport to any part of the universe they wished on that made warp drive a joke. Well, that was the point of this, wasn't it? To turn Star Trek into a joke, and that's what they proceeded to do. Klingons invented cloaking devices, not the Romulans. And to counter this, Spock's make-believe sister, Mikey Spock, the bestest ever, came up with using sonar in space to find them, despite there being no air in space to convey sound. Yeah, that's the Lost in Space level drivel this show dealt in on a regular basis. Except that Lost in Space was bright and funny, basically a kid's show and a comedy for adults, whereas STD was ugly, dark, and hateful, with plucked eyeballs and severed Klingon baby heads. It wanted to be Game of Thrones, only without a brain in its head or balls in its spacesuit. STD had the meanness of a sullen dullard sitting in his own shit and wanting to smear Gene Roddenberry and every Star Trek fan with it. I hated this disgusting exercise in cultural vandalism so much. It's the reason I started my channel 7 years ago, because the media was falling all over themselves shilling for this monstrosity, and I couldn't believe I was the only one in the world who saw this filth for what it was, an anti-Star Trek designed to subvert and destroy Gene Roddenberry's bright, optimistic vision with a dark, ugly mutant changeling. STD is the reason my channel exists, my friends. And that's why this Christmas miracle of miracles has me running through the streets yelling Merry Christmas at the top of my lungs. Paramount has decanonized all of Star Trek Discovery, essentially erasing it from canon and history. I was told that they had done it in a backhanded way, in a manner that few might notice, and yet done it they had, officially. Star Trek Discovery never happened. It was all a dream. Just another alternate universe bubble, as is made clear by Star Trek Lower Decks in their final episode. And Paramount gave it their blessing. According to Paramount itself, at long last, STD, despite their protests to the contrary, has been declared to be the equivalent in Christmas terms of a bit of undigested potato. Here's what happened, folks, as summarized in an article in Giant Freaking Robot titled Star Trek Just Erased an Entire Series from Canon. Quote, Star Trek Lower Decks had its big finale this week, and in the process of ending the show, they fixed one of the worst problems Star Trek has ever had. That problem is named Star Trek Discovery, and thankfully, it is no longer part of the official Prime Timeline Star Trek canon. Holy shit. Giant Freaking Robot. Laying down some truth bombs here. Oh my God. And no, I do not work for Giant Freaking Robot. They continue, my God, it's just wonderful. I mean, this is pure undistilled truth. Holy shit. It says, Lower Decks has always taken full advantage of its animated format to fix some of the franchise's nagging questions and biggest mistakes. They've smoothed a lot of things over, but the one thing that seemed impossible to smooth over was the way Star Trek Discovery trashed the entire Star Trek universe. My God in heaven. And then they talk about how Star Trek Discovery turned the Klingons into the Klingorks, as you can see here. Star Trek Discovery's Klingons. Yeah, not good, making the comparison there. And then they state something very interesting. This was just the start of the mess Discovery tried to make of the Trek universe. The show was made with the goal of erasing all Trek that had gone before, and it set out to do that pretty quickly. And then they get to the coup de grace. Says, luckily now it doesn't matter because the Star Trek Lower Decks finale confirmed that the events of Discovery take place in an alternate reality. In the show's finale, a group of Klingon ships encounters a phenomenon that transforms things into alternate reality versions of themselves. When a Klingon ship hits one of those transformation rays, it transforms into a big, ugly Discovery-style Klingon ship. Then one of the crew members transforms into a Discovery-style Klingon. It means that Discovery and its Klingorks, just like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, happened in an alternate universe, one that has nothing to do with the rest of Star Trek. Boom Shanka, folks. That's it. Boom Shanka. So at last, in their final episode, Star Trek Lower Decks fixes Star Trek. This anti-reality wave sweeps through this particular universe, turning the Klingons into Klingorks and generally perverting and distorting things into an alternate reality that has no relevance or relationship to real Star Trek, and that's really all I wanted all along.
Now, wait a minute, dude. Don't abandon your intentions to push my button and let me out and destroy the universe. Don't get too freaking happy, dude. Isn't Star Trek Lower Decks just an animated comedy? It isn't canon, is it? I think you're getting excited for nothing.
Well, Harvey Naysayer, I went to the Google machine and asked it quite simply, is Star Trek Lower Decks canon? And this is the answer that came back. Yes, Star Trek Lower Decks is considered canon. Creator confirmation. Showrunner Mike McMahon confirmed that Lower Decks is canon at a 2019 Star Trek Las Vegas symposium. Canonicity established. The production team used Easter eggs and references to previous Star Trek series to make Lower Decks inseparable from the rest of the franchise. So, there you go. Looks like it's canon. Looks like Paramount cleared them to do that episode, and it looks like our vicious case of STD is now cured. Turns out Star Trek Lower Decks, a miracle of miracles, was the dose of penicillin we needed to get rid of this clap. Now, in a very real sense, the mission of my channel is complete. STD is finished. Hoist on its own Picard. Presumably, every single other Star Trek series contaminated by Mikey Spock is similarly decanonized. Since Mikey Spock never existed, So that means Strange New Worlds is toast as well. And probably Puke Heart is too, because I think at some point there's some STD bullshit in there as well. I'd like to think so, since Picard is the equivalent of being kicked in the head by a particularly dim mule with syphilis, but I'll have to dig into that later. The important thing here, my friends, is Star Trek Discovery is now not only finished, it is dead. Just a horrible dream that will fade over the years into the nothingness of echoes. It's official, folks. Star Trek Discovery is not Star Trek. I've always said it, and now, once again, Doomcock was right. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.